Kids who were nerdy and never did any kind of sports were considered the most intelligent and bright. The jocks who were sporty and fit were often branded as simple-minded and empty-headed. So by following this stereotype, you had two groups: smart and weak, dumb and fit. However, in the recent years, there's a new stereotype that's gained popularity. A smart jock. An individual who is both intellectually gifted and physically fit. Did they win the genetic lottery, or is it possible that exercise could make you smarter? First, we need to take a look back in the past before we can draw any conclusions. Not that long ago, there was this prevailing theory that we had a fixed amount of brain cells. You were either born smart with a big brain, or you weren't. And once we became adults, our brains were supposed to stop creating new neurons, and we could only lose neurons as we got older. Saying the brain could grow and form new brain cells got you ridiculed and made fun of by the scientific community. However, in the mid-90s, some scientists were looking for a way to prevent Alzheimer's disease. For those that don't know, Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia, a general term for memory loss and other cognitive abilities. It's identified by a loss of neurons in certain brain regions. To put it simply, the disease shrinks your brain. Over the 4-year period, the scientists found 3 factors or 3 lifestyle changes that actually help prevent the cognitive decline in Alzheimer's disease. The first factor was continuous learning and education. Things like reading books and learning more about the world around us fall in this category. The second was self-efficacy and mindset. Basically, an individual's belief in their innate ability to do things well and achieve their goals. But third and last was physical exercise. The first 2 factors weren't so surprising, but the third one was. How could exercise be the most potent lifestyle change you could make to keep your brain going? As far as we knew, exercise didn't act on the brain. One of the scientists of the group, Carl Kuttman, went back to his lab and decided to study what's going on. So he got a bunch of mice and had them run on a running wheel from 7 to 14 days. But it wasn't all fun and games for the mice, as their brains were eventually dissected. He looked at their brains, and the cortex, which is the top part of the brain, was thicker. And there was one particular area called the hippocampus which was bigger when compared to the mice that didn't run on the wheel. The brain's cortex is where our long-term memories are stored, and the hippocampus is like a center for learning and short-term memory. So Carl found the answer he was looking for. Exercise was making our brains grow new cells and neurons. This is why it was preventing brain's deterioration and cognitive decline. Carl's findings paved the way for a whole new research field in science by showing the world that the brain is astonishingly flexible, able to be retrained and reprogrammed. Like a muscle, it responds to use, adapting to new demands and conditions. It also withers without use, so it's either use it or lose it. However, that doesn't quite explain why exercise is making our brains grow new neurons. Most people would consider using your brain as doing something creative or logical, like writing a book or solving a puzzle. But that's not really what the brain's main function is. The only reason why humans have such big brains is for one purpose, and that purpose only. And the reason is to perform adaptable, complex movements. Simply put, we have a brain made to move. As pointed out by a neurophysiologist, Rodolfo Linus, only a mobile creature needs a brain. To illustrate this, he used an example of a tiny jellyfish-like animal called a sea squirt. Born with a simple spinal cord and a 300-neuron brain, the sea squirt moves around in the ocean until it finds a coral rock where it will spend the rest of its life. However, once safely attached, the sea squirt simply digests its own brain for extra energy. For most of its life, it looks much more like a plant than an animal, and since it's not moving anymore, it has no more use for a brain.
This is an actual screenshot.
When we bring the word exercise to mind, we might think of someone trying to get in shape or becoming buff. However, today we know that exercise has a much bigger effect on our brain than on our body. Physical activity activates most of our brain regions simultaneously, because like we just said, we need a brain to move. Conditioning the heart and building muscle are essentially side effects. But the most profound effect exercise has on our brain is that it improves our learning ability. We mentioned earlier that the mice that ran on the running wheel had a bigger hippocampus, which is the brain's center for memory and learning. The reason it was bigger is because when we exercise, we raise our levels of BDNF. BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is a powerful protein that stimulates the production of new brain cells and strengthens existing ones. It's found in the hippocampus, cortex, and basal forebrain. All these brain areas are vital to learning, memory, and higher thinking. BDNF can be compared to a plant fertilizer. Plants need water, sun, and soil to grow. However, most soil doesn't provide the essential nutrients required for optimal plant growth. This is why plant fertilizer is added. Just like a plant fertilizer supports plant growth, BDNF acts as a brain fertilizer. BDNF nourishes brain cells and makes them grow new synapses. A study in 2013 showed that just 20 to 40 minutes of exercise increased BDNF in the blood by 32%. This ties closely to the German study, where they found that people learn vocabulary words 20% faster after physical activities. And the rate of learning is directly correlated with the levels of BDNF. To put it simply, the higher our levels of BDNF are, the easier it is to learn new things. And if you've been paying any attention right now, you know what gives a significant boost of BDNF. Which brings out a more interesting question. Is there a correlation between fitness and academics? Only a few researchers have tackled this question. However, a study from Virginia Tech showed that cutting gym class and devoting more time to math, science, and reading did not improve test scores, as many assume it would. Cutting away exercise and spending more time behind the books could actually decrease your test results. Over the past few years, the California Department of Education has consistently shown that students with higher fitness scores also have higher test scores.